Hi, this is Tony Guthrie, and I want to thank you for joining me today on this video about creativity in either public speaking or homiletics or preaching. You know, one of the things that makes a communicator not have the ability to connect with an audience is his or her inability to be creative. I mean, we live in a world today to where creativity is so key. And if you're not an effective communicator, if you don't have the ability to draw people in and gain their interest by utilizing creative approaches, then their mind is just going to wander. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to get their smartphone or their iPhone out and just do some searching while you're doing your presentation. So to truly be effective today and avoid being boring to the average listener today, creativity is absolutely the key. So I just want to give you a few pointers very quickly on how you, and I do mean you, can be a very effective creative communicator, whether it be in biblical preaching or Bible study teaching or just in general at your place of employment or as a professional speaker. So just a few thoughts here related to that. And first of all, you have to lose the doubt that you can be creative. In other words, you've got to gain some confidence that you can be a very effective communicator and that you can connect with people. I mean, one of the things that a lot of people have going against them is the fact that they do not believe that they can be an effective communicator. They do not believe that they can be creative. The number one fear in the world is public speaking, of course, and that just simply adds to it. They say to themselves, well, I can't do this. Well, you've got to stop doing that, and you've got to stop thinking of all the reasons why you can't communicate effectively and think of all the reasons that you can. You're actually far more creative than you actually realize. So lose the doubt, gain the confidence that you can communicate in a creative way, and secondly, visualize success. And I don't want to sound like some kind of Eastern mystic telling you to practice the principle of visualization. However, there's something very powerful when it comes to communicating when you see yourself as effective. If you tell yourself all the time that you're not very effective, you're going to be your own prophet, and that's actually going to be the case. But if you see yourself as you're driving to the presentation and you see yourself engaging the audience and the audience is engaged in you and you see them listening and hanging on every word, that does something to our psyche, it does something to our confidence, and it causes our creative juices to begin to flow. And actually, while we're in the presentation itself, we can give impromptu things that are not even in our notes that will come to us because the confidence level will grow as we see ourselves as being an effective communicator. So see yourself as an effective communicator. Third, be natural. And what I mean by being natural is be yourself. Don't try to be someone else. One of the things that you see in any arena of public speaking is people actually looking at someone else that they consider to be a successful communicator, and they say, boy, I need to be like them. I need to communicate like them. I need to be able to move an audience the way they do. And then what they do is they try to mimic that person and do what that person does. Big mistake. Be yourself. You've got your own hardwiring. You've got your own personality. You've got your own DNA. You've got your own spiritual aspects and personality aspects. You want to use those to the very best of your ability. I can remember back in the early 90s when Rick Warren came on the scene with his purpose-driven church, and a few years later his purpose-driven life, and then his approach to purpose-driven communication. All these speakers and preachers were trying to be like Rick Warren and trying to mimic him and copy his, and most of them were not very good at it. And the reason for that is because there's only one Rick Warren in the world. There's only one Joel Osteen. There's only one Billy Graham, and that's by design. You need to look at yourself and be comfortable in your shoes and use the strengths and abilities that you have going for you. So be natural. Number four, I should say, leave your box. And what I mean by that is that every one of us have been trained to think a certain way. Our spiritual DNA, our personality causes us to think a certain way. And therefore we get ourselves in a rut or in a box of doing something the same way all the time. And what we need to do and what we want to do is we want to try new things. We want to get out of the box. We want to study other preachers and study other arenas and see what other people are doing and say, how can I bring that in without copying them, but how can I bring some of the things that they do and their innovative approaches that match my personality into the process? I mean, just because you've done something a certain way for a long time doesn't mean that you are married to that and you have to do it that way every time. Get out of your comfort zone, leave the box, and do Do it in a different way from time to time. You might be surprised at how comfortable you are doing that. Next, take a few risks. Try something new. You know, if you bomb, at least you'll know that's not something you should do. But most of the time, when you take a creative risk, you will not bomb. Do something that's just out of the ordinary for you. Maybe not something just grandiose and over the top, but something that people know is outside of what you normally do. Take a few risks here and there. Carry something around with you. Use a different approach to the way you use voice inflection. Use a different type of PowerPoint presentation. Do something that will stretch your creativity and take a few risks and see what works for you. See what you're comfortable doing, and if you're not comfortable with it, then don't do it again. If you're comfortable with it and it connects with your audience, then build upon it. But take a few creative risks. And then lastly, learn the art of storytelling. And the most creative thing we can ever do is just draw our audience in by telling stories. And the thing about stories is we want to give as much detail and much vivid information as we possibly can, because people, listen to this, people listen and they hear in pictures. When you're telling a story, then what they do is they immediately tune into you and they start listening and they start seeing the story unfold in their mind. Just like if I tell you right now, yesterday I was at McDonald's with a friend of mine, and we were there looking at some kids at the next table having an argument with each other over a particular toy that they had. Now, what just happened was every one of you saw me at McDonald's. Now, you don't know who my friend was, so you invented one. You saw me with someone. You didn't know if it was male or female, and you don't know how many kids were there, but you certainly saw some kids arguing over a particular toy, and you didn't know what the toy was, so you invented one. This is the way your mind works. So the more vivid detail, the better. And as you learn the art of storytelling, then people will engage and they will actually put themselves in the story and see it. And this is one of the most creative ways of holding your audience's attention. So just by recap, if you're going to be a creative communicator, first of all, believe in yourself. Lose all the doubt. Secondly, see yourself as being an effective communicator. Quit wondering why you fail all the time, or if you will fail, and just say, you know, I am going to be effective in this particular speaking event that I've got coming up in the next few weeks. Be natural. Don't copy anyone else. Just be yourself and be comfortable in your own sandals. Get out of your comfort zone and do things that are outside of what you've always done. Take a few creative risks and see what you learn, but mostly learn the art of storytelling, and you will hold your audience captive in very creative ways. This is Tony Guthrie. Thanks for joining me.